Humiliation. It's not just a sting it lingers, it's the kind of memory that replays in the back of your mind long after the laughter dies and the crowd disperses. But what if I told you that humiliation isn't the downfall of your power, but the ignition of it? Because a Machiavellian mind doesn't dread public disgrace. He exploits it. To most, humiliation signals loss. But for the Machiavellian thinker, it's an opportunity for strategic reversal, a deliberate, cold maneuver that turns the mocker into the wounded. Yet before you can master that reversal, you must first grasp why humiliation cuts so deep. It's more than just embarrassment, it's about leverage. When someone humiliates you, particularly in a public setting, they're doing several things at once. They seize the narrative, shape the perception of others before you can reply, and diminish your perceived status. They take the stage and hand you shame, all while studying how you'll respond. Your reaction determines whether you earn respect, pity, or obscurity. And most people fail this crucial test. They overcompensate. They try to explain. They lash out or retreat into silence. But the Machiavellian would warn, the worst move is revealing that you were wounded. Because the instant you show signs of being rattled, anxious, defensive, shaken, you've handed them victory, proof that their blow landed. So what's the Machiavellian strategy? You don't respond to the insult, you respond to the spectators. Here's the harsh reality. The audience is more important than the instigator. In the game of humiliation, what was said matters less than who observed it. Your retaliation, therefore, isn't about words, it's about performance. You don't match fire with fire. You take control of the narrative. Step 1. Dismantle the stage. When you're mocked, they expect you to get emotional, to protest. Instead, you hold your ground still, not fragile. Your silence is sharp. Lock eyes. Offer a slow, calculated smirk. That moment isn't meant for the one who attacked you. It's for the crowd, because what you're broadcasting isn't fear, it's strategy, and that flips the energy immediately. Why? Because people naturally fear the uncertain. And when someone who's just been mocked falls into silence, it unsettles. It raises questions. What is he planning? Why didn't she react? What does he see that we don't? The mood shifts from ridicule to hesitation. Step 2. Redefine the attack as weakness. This is where Machiavellian brilliance shines. He didn't merely endure insults. He turned them into revelations about the attacker. Say someone targets your looks, your past, your shortcomings. You don't argue, you don't excuse. You respond with a single calm line, calculated and heavy with meaning. Say, it's telling how badly you needed that moment. Or, so much drama for so little effect. See what happens? You're not defending yourself. You're analyzing their need to tear you down. You reframe their jab not as proof of your flaws, but as evidence of their insecurity. And just like that, the spotlight shifts again. The room falls silent, not because you lost control, but because you precisely reversed the emotional momentum. Suddenly, the aggressor is the one left exposed, overreaching, trying too hard. This is mental judo. You don't meet pressure with pressure. You redirect it. Step 3. Take ownership of your flaw before they can turn it into a weapon. If the humiliation stems from something real, a mistake, a vulnerability, don't avoid it. Claim it, but on your own terms. You might say, yeah, that happened and I'm still here while you're grasping. Or, they've used that before. It always says more about them than about me. The aim is to diffuse the weapon before it can be used again. When you speak of your flaws with steady assurance, they lose their sting. More than that, they transform into evidence of resilience. The Machiavellian doesn't conceal his scars. He refines them until they dazzle. You demonstrate that ridicule no longer phases you because you've stopped playing by the crowd's emotional rules. You've traded validation for control. It's not about winning the moment. It's about leaving others questioning, hesitating, recalculating. That's where real dominance takes shape. Because after humiliation, the objective isn't to appear strong, it's to appear untouchable. And that distinction matters. Strength invites challenge. But invulnerability makes people hesitate. Machiavelli taught that the illusion of invincibility often outweighs the reality. If others believe you can't be humiliated simply because you refuse to accept the rules that permit it, they'll think twice before trying again. And if they do, you won't merely endure their next attempt. You'll seize the very platform they intended for your downfall and turn it into your arena. There is no deeper vengeance than showing someone who tried to diminish you that you lie beyond their reach. But don't mistake this psychological dominance for something easily gained. It's forged shaped in the crucible of public missteps, betrayal, and social humiliation. Only those who master the art of perception can emerge from it tougher than before. Because humiliation isn't just about harsh words, it's about who frames their meaning. In any shared space, whether a dinner table, office, classroom, or digital sphere, the person who controls the narrative controls the emotional outcome. That's why the Machiavellian strategy isn't retaliation. It's redirection. Imagine someone lands a cheap shot to earn laughs at your expense, something sharp, rehearsed, meant to box you in. Most people try to claw their way out, but the Machiavellian doesn't squirm in the corner. He redefines the space because shame only sticks if you accept its premise. Let's say someone throws out, "Didn't you screw that up last time too?" The standard reaction is shame, justification, or denial. And that's exactly what they're counting on. That's the scene they rehearsed. Now pay attention to what unfolds when you simply refuse to play the part they wrote for you. You pause, letting the silence hang just a bit too long, then speak with deliberate clarity. You've been holding on to that one for a while, haven't you? Now the focus shifts. It's no longer about your mistake, it's about their fixation, their small-mindedness, their urge to drag you down to elevate themselves. And just like that, the audience sees it too. This is the brilliance of the Machiavellian reversal. It doesn't reject the truth, it reframes it. You allow the jab to land, not to evade it, but to use it as a spotlight not on you, but on them. This idea is ancient. The Stoics embraced it. Sun Tzu implied it. But Machiavelli wielded it in courts, councils, and casual conversations wherever status could shift with a few words. He knew that in the arena of power, the most dangerous figure isn't the one who reacts, it's the one who absorbs, analyzes, and answers with precision, not passion. One of his most devastating tools? Turning an insult into a self-reveal. Here's how it works. When someone mocks you in front of others, what they say often reflects more about their own flaws than yours, but only if you know how to uncover it. For example, if someone says you're overcompensating during a serious moment, resist the urge to argue. Instead, tilt your head and calmly respond, "That's a curious thing to notice." Sounds personal. That line is razor sharp. In that instant, you've implied their insult is projection. Now they're the one who has to explain themselves, which makes them look insecure. You've handed back the emotional weight they tried to place on you. And now it's theirs to carry. People who humiliate others usually do so to mask their own anxieties, fears, or desire for control. When you reflect their attack back, not with anger but with eerie composure, you turn their show into a mirror they can't avoid. And the best part? You remain emotionally neutral, steady, precise, unaffected. That unnerves them far more than any outburst. Because anger means they still pull your strings. Cold clarity means you're pulling theirs. This is how you elevate your status from a moment of humiliation. Most assume surviving means escaping without damage. But the Machiavellian doesn't just aim to survive. He intends to dominate the moment. Here's what you must remember. The audience rarely recalls the exact words. What they remember is who appeared in control. That's it. So in any embarrassing encounter, your face is the canvas. Your voice sets the scene. Your silence creates tension. And when you do finally speak, if you speak, it must never sound like defense. It must sound deliberate. As if you expected this. As if this was a trap of your own design. Because when you take a moment crafted to disgrace you and make it look like you orchestrated it, the laughter dies and fear takes its place. Humiliation only sticks when you accept the role of the victim. But the moment you carry yourself like the one who designed the script, you become untouchable. That's the ultimate power move, not avoiding shame, but owning the moment so fully it bends to your will. It's about constructing your reputation with such precision that when someone attempts to shame you, they end up disgracing themselves instead. The Machiavellian mindset held that real power doesn't lie in being the first to strike it. Lies in remaining completely unmoved when targeted, making the aggressor seem immature just for trying. Because what gives humiliation its sting isn't the jab, it's the unraveling that follows. The awkward chuckle, the scrambling for words, the desperate urge to salvage your image in front of others. That's the trap most fall into, trying to reclaim control too quickly. But real power doesn't rush. It carries weight. So when you're under fire, your response must slow the moment. Your energy should drop, not escalate. Your words should decrease, not multiply. And your body language should deliver a clear message. This is beneath me. The moment you rise to match their chaotic energy, you validate their frame. But when you stay poised, detached, even faintly amused, you've already started reversing the effect. You've made their blow part of your narrative. Here's how that looks in practice. Imagine you're in a group, sharing a story or perspective, and someone interrupts with a snide comment. Oh wow, you think everything you say is that profound? What they're doing is trying to reframe you as egotistical, attention-seeking, overly self-important. Most people might respond defensively. No, I just thought it might be useful to share. But that's justification, and it places you on the back foot. You're now defending your intent, which means they've taken control. Now observe the Machiavellian shift. You pause. Make calm, steady eye contact, not aggressive, just attentive. And with a subtle tilt of the head say, interesting how that struck a nerve. No hostility, no accusation. Just a mirror held up with clinical precision. In one sentence, the dynamic flips. You're no longer on trial, they are. The attention shifts from, was I being arrogant, to why did that irritate them so much? Suddenly, others in the room begin to question the motives of the interrupter, not yours. That's the essence of a Machiavellian reversal. Let their insult illuminate their own insecurities. And it's not always about having the wittiest comeback. Often, it's about weaponizing your presence, holding your composure so fully that the crowd starts to question why anyone would try to undermine you in the first place. This is vital. Humiliation isn't reality, it's theater. And like any theater, it needs three things: a stage, a spotlight, and an audience. Take control of the audience, and you redefine the scene. That's why when someone targets you, your real response isn't aimed at them. It's directed at the room. Your voice, your silence, your body language, even your smallest expressions, they all become part of your message. You make it clear that your silence isn't weakness. It's dominance. And that shakes people. Because most expect humiliation to tip the scales, but when the scales stay perfectly balanced and the person under attack appears unshaken, something profound shifts. You've taken control of the performance, and now you're the one directing the show. But when you stay composed, unmoved, you disrupt the expected script. You become unreadable, and people fear what they can't read. Now here's a harsh truth many overlook. Humiliation is rarely spontaneous. In social circles, it's often preloaded. That jab someone threw, chances are it wasn't improvised. It's probably been rehearsed, said behind closed doors, shared in private chats, and now delivered in public to score cheap laughs and social clout, which means your attacker thinks they're clever. They believe they've found your trigger. But when you show that there is no trigger, they're the ones left exposed. Here's where the precision move comes in. Imagine someone makes a snarky comment. Don't worry, you'll get it right someday. Cue the laughter, the glances. People look your way, waiting for a reaction. Now lean in slightly, calmly, and deliver with a cool smile. That one's been in your pocket for a while, hasn't it? What happens next is surgical. You strip away the illusion of spontaneity. You reveal premeditation. And worse, you paint them as oddly fixated, someone who's been sitting on a punchline waiting for their moment. You haven't retaliated. You haven't denied. You've simply exposed obsession, and that makes the crowd uncomfortable. The joke doesn't land. It lingers. And suddenly, the audience isn't laughing at you, they're shifting in their seats, questioning the joker's intent. Now they've become the awkward one. That's how you flip the script. It's not about raising your voice. It's about owning the room with quiet dominance. But let's go further. What if the humiliation isn't spoken? What if it's more subtle exclusion? Being talked over, deliberately ignored, made to feel invisible. Here's how someone with Machiavellian intelligence handles it. Step 1. Don't haze approval. That's exactly what they want. Your neediness confirms their status. Step 2. Detach with strategy, not emotion. You don't sulk. You don't storm out. You calmly withdraw attention. Shift your gaze. Start a side conversation. Check your phone. Signal that their validation means nothing to you. Step 3. Redraw the gravity of the room. Create value elsewhere. Spark a new, more engaging dialogue. Redirect the spotlight to a space they no longer control. Let them feel the absence of your attention, and with it, the influence they tried to exert. Because here's the truth, attention is power. And when you withhold it from those who seek to embarrass you, you strip away their influence. And finally, the most brutal technique of all, say nothing. Let them unravel themselves. People who rely on humiliation often do so out of attention addiction. And if you give them just enough room without interrupting, reacting, or flinching, they'll overplay. They'll go too far. They'll lose the audience on their own. And all the while, you remain untouched. Then at the perfect moment, you deliver one line that reframes the entire act they just performed. You seem deeply invested in this role. Then silence. You've won. Because humiliation only works on those desperate to defend their image. But when you release the need to appear flawless, you become untouchable. And that invincibility shakes those who feed on your vulnerability. They sense you're not afraid of being noticed. What unsettles them even more is that you're not afraid of being misunderstood. And that is your psychological shield. Not the kind that blocks blows, but the kind that makes aggressors hesitate before throwing one. Because they can't predict your move, only that it'll be effective. Real power doesn't yell. It doesn't scramble to defend its image. True power, the Machiavellian kind, remains steady within chaos. Because it knows chaos can be redirected. Those who try to shame you in front of others aren't just challenging your poise. They're attempting to rebrand you socially, right there, in real time. That's the deeper layer most miss. This isn't just about feeling embarrassed, it's about identity control. And if you don't take back authorship, the audience will accept their version of you as fact. That's why the core of a Machiavellian reversal isn't the cool remark or the subtle smirk, it's your refusal to be defined. Because the moment someone succeeds in framing you as weak, needy, irrelevant, arrogant, or pathetic in public, that image becomes the lens for every future interaction. So, how do you dismantle that frame without falling into emotional reaction? Let's break down the tactics Machiavelli would use step by step. First, the principle of disruption. When someone tries to shame you publicly, they expect to lead the rhythm. Their moment is rehearsed, timed for laughs, delivered with confidence, using glances and cues to recruit the crowd. Your first counter is to interrupt that rhythm not by being loud or defensive, but by responding with deliberate calm, something slow, something mismatched with the emotional tone they tried to manufacture. A long pause, a quiet sip from your glass, a raised eyebrow, a relaxed lean in your chair. No words, just poised silence. That subtle misalignment creates friction, social static. Now the attention of the room starts shifting not because of what was said, but because of the absence of a typical reaction. They expected conflict or collapse. Instead, they get a pause laced with tension. This is when the audience's focus changes. You're no longer the one being watched in weakness. You're being watched in anticipation. And your next move is everything. Second, the surgical strike. After you've fractured the flow, then you speak but never to explain or defend. That's what average minds do. You speak to expose the insecurity behind the insult. Imagine someone sneers at your work. Did you seriously think that was impressive? The bait is emotional, don't take it. Instead, look at them calmly and reply, "Odd how invested you are for someone who claims not to care." And now watch the freeze. The room tilts. You haven't insulted them. You've redirected the lens from your performance to their fixation. You didn't call it out, you hinted at it. And that's what makes it devastating. Because now everyone sees it. You didn't explain. You didn't react. You revealed. And that's what makes it Machiavellian. You didn't just redirect their spotlight, you turned it into their confession. Third, don't focus on being right. Focus on being undeniable. Here's where many people misread the rules of social power. Winning an argument doesn't mean you've won the audience. Why? Because being right strokes the ego, but being unquestionably composed, calmly unwavering, and subtly commanding leaves a far deeper impact than any debate. This isn't about proving a point, it's about shaping the perception of the moment. It's frame control, not fact control. The real power lies in determining what that moment meant. So instead of correcting someone, you might say, "That's one way to look at it." But the fact you had to say it speaks louder than the point itself. One line and you've dismissed their version of events without even engaging with it. You've returned the emotional weight to them. Your tone? Crisp? Unaffected? Detached? That's how real authority communicates, surgical, not sentimental. Fourth, the echo of dignity. Let's talk about the aftermath. In a world addicted to attention and drama, restraint is radical. Once you've flipped a humiliation attempt on its head, don't linger in the moment. Don't brag, gloat, or repeat the exchange for others to hear. Just walk away clean, composed, unaffected. That silence will carry farther than any comeback. People won't quote what you said. They'll remember how you made the other person look without even trying. He didn't blink. She made them look small without raising her voice. Quote, "That was ice cold." That's the Machiavellian ascent. You didn't dodge the hit, you used it as a step upward. Fifth, prepare for the next play. Here's what most people overlook. When you handle humiliation effectively, it won't be the last attempt. Once you establish yourself as calm, unreadable, and hard to shake, those who depend on control, social leverage, or group performance will feel threatened and they'll come again. But this time, subtler, smarter. They might send someone else. They might dress the insult as a compliment, ask a question with barbed implications, or isolate you with silence. You handle it all the same way. You never respond emotionally. You always act with intention. Because a Machiavellian doesn't let others set the game, he defines it. If someone tries to shame or undermine you, they've already exposed something. They see you as dangerous. That's your advantage. Not revenge, not recognition, but quiet proof that your presence, your composure, was enough to make someone abandon their script in public. And when that happens, you don't strike, you don't chase. You wait. You let the stillness speak. And only when necessary, you offer one final line, not to wound, but to seal the moment into memory, to make it permanent. That's how Machiavelli would do it. Not loudly, not chaotically, but with precise calm, leaving their image in ruins, while yours remains untouched.